All right, everybody. I'm Josh Parker, and very honored, very privileged to be here today with Mr. Lamar Palmer. He's been a lifelong resident of Walton County. He's been worked for the city of Monroe PD. A lot of you probably remember him at his time at the sheriff's department. He was actually sheriff of Walton County, and he was also a county commissioner. So just want to take a moment to just kind of talk about his incredible life. He's really done a lot of good here in the community, and I'm proud to call him a friend, and just happy to be here talking to him today. So before we get started, just can you tell us a little bit, maybe a little bit of some of your early history? You know, where you're born, where you're raised, some of your family.
Josh, I really appreciate you doing this and think enough of me to recognize what I've done. But I'll tell you, I was raised up on a farm. I learned how to eat what was put in front of you. I lived through World War II, which was very hard. People of our today don't know what that was like. And went to school in Goodhope. And I joined the Air Force when I was 17-year-old. My mother signed. And my dad told me, says, son, don't you know there's a war going on? We had one of these great old big globes, you know, it was on a stand and you could turn it. And I found a career on it. And I told Dad, I said, with that little spot and all of this other, no way I ought to go there. Wrong. First place I went straight to career during the war, and I never was in any actual combat. I run heavy equipment, which I was very lucky, and I built bomb dumps and runways and that kind of thing. And I got out.
What year was that? What year did you go?
That was in 1951 to 1955.
Okay.
And then I was in 4 years of reserve.
What made you at 17 years old, being basically a country boy and growing up in Goodhope on a farm, what sparked you to say, hey, I want to go to the Air Force?
Well, I'd always been related to the military through my uncles. I had 3 uncles in the military. And I was kind of one of these old farm boys. It was kind of tough, you know, and I just thought it would be a good profession for me to get in, and it was worth every minute I spent in it. It taught me a lot of things. It taught me how to take care of myself. It taught you how to take care of your buddies, how you take care of your friends, and realize that everything you've done just about concerns somebody else somewhere. And when I got discharged, I come back home and I drove a truck for Watson Wilson Trucking Company, and for 7.5 years. And the unions come in and took it over and sold it out to Yellow Transit, and so I was without a job. So I was sitting on my front porch on Walton Road, and Mr. Jesse Steele came over to my house and told me, says, Mr. Jack Morris wants to see you, and he wants to see you now.
And who was Jack Morris?
He was the chief of police of Monroe.
The city of Monroe, okay.
And 1,000 things went through my head, you know, I was a teenager. And I said, well, boys, this is it, you know. But anyway, I went over there to the old B&M Cafe, which was on South Broad Street. And he hired me to be a police officer. I started August 15th, 1964.
What made him reach out to you? Think just your Air Force background,
Well,
or?
I was in the civil defense. and I cared about law enforcement. I hung around, and
What's a civil defense? What was that?
civil defense was something that they had back during the war. It was an organization to help if you had an emergency.
Okay, so you had to go to like trainings or.
And Miss Peggy Malcolm was in charge of it, and I know myself and Barney Manders and Bill Durden and several more people was involved in it, and all of us turned out to be police officers. But anyway, Monroe was going through a big change at that time.
What year was this?
This is in 1964.
64.
We were doing it when we had integration going on.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Jack, I guess he was looking for people that had some experience. Excuse me. And I guess he fell on my military.
Yeah, and it probably helped too, you being born and raised here.
Yeah.
You probably knew a lot of the people.
I knew all the people
that were already in the community.
And anyway, as I said, I worked for Watson and Wilson Trucking Company. Go back just a step. I was a delivery boy here in Monroe County like UPS is now. I knew everybody. In Monroe. And that gave me a head start in policing in Monroe. I stayed there approximately 10 years, and we worked up to the rank of captain. And at that time, Josh, when we started, we didn't have a police station. We had a little brick building up on the courthouse square and a telephone on a pole. People would call in, we would answer the telephone, and then we'd go on the call. Finally got a radio in that little house. And then we got one in the car. And Mr. Jack, he retired, and Mr. Ronnie Harris became chief. And we built a police department down there, and we had a fingerprinting outfit, a photo lab. We had just about it. We brought it up to the modern day.
Yeah, it was so I mean, you basically came in. It was essentially Mayberry.
I don't want to brag on ourselves, but Ronnie and I, and with the help of the employees we had, we built a police department down there.
Yeah.
We went from a day and night job to a profession.
Mm-hmm.
And I was real proud of that.
Well, let me ask you this: can you remember what was your first call you went on, or better yet, what was one of maybe the most oddest or funniest or I don't know worst calls you ever went on?
I know one night we was working the city I had went to the county, but we swapped out at Christmas. So Rakestraw and I volunteered to work for the city because both of us had worked there and we were familiar. We had a call, a boy and a girl was having a fight. So we went up there, and Rakestraw had the boy over in the corner, and I had the lady over, and I set her down on the couch. And Rakestraw was having a little problem with the boy, and I turned around, and I saw a flying object. She threw a lamp and hit me in the head. And anyway, I went to Rakestraw, and I asked him, I said, Rakestraw, what's going on? He called me Pamo. He said, Pamo, it don't look good. Blood was dripping off the end of my nose. And so I set the little girl down on the couch, and I don't think she would get up after I set her down. And I went over and helped Rakestraw, and we finally got the little boy under control. But that's not funny, but it was odd, you know, that we'd go up there and I'd get a lamp thrown at me and get hit in the forehead.
And it was on Christmas Eve.
Christmas, yeah.
Oh God.
And they always told a joke on one of the officers that he had ran up on a man up there on North Broad crawling on the sidewalks. And he went over to ask the guy, says, "Where are you going?" He says, "If I ever get over this wall, sir, I'm going home." So, anyway.
He was crawling.
A lot of stories I could tell you that happened.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
But, you know, where it was and where it's at today, it's great. We've got one of the most advanced police departments and sheriff's departments you got in the state. And a lot of people is responsible for building it.
Yeah.
And
well, with that being said too, just kind of fast forward to where we are at today, what are your thoughts, you know, and I don't want to hurt nobody's feelings or anything, but just what's your opinion? You know, I know we've got a new jail that's coming to town, and I think you were there when the old jail,
yes, I
which
was.
is now, it was a new jail, you were there when it was the new jail, and now we're building another jail.
It was in 1987, 80, I believe it was 1988.
88.
When we took off.
So from 88, so you got 88, so 98, 2008. So it's basically a 30 plus year old facility, which is pretty old. And now we're building a new facility, but it's costing lots of money. What are your thoughts as far as that goes?
Well, we're a county now of 100,000 population. And when you get over 100,000 people in a county, you gotta have a place to put your people. And I thought they ought to build onto that jail. But after looking at it and see the deterioration in it, I think that our people made a good choice.
To do that. So it's just kind of like you were part of these building blocks, it's just kind of another building block in the community.
It's just like
you gotta have it.
If you got a son or a daughter that's in jail, you don't want them in a rat hole, like the problems they having in Fulton County now, one getting killed every day.
Yeah.
And I think this jail capacity is going to be a little over 800. And you know what the jails is coming to now? Back when I was down there, they wouldn't let you lock up a mental health patient unless it was for an emergency. We had to carry him and have him checked out, and then they'd sign what they called a 1013, and you'd carry him to Augusta or Milledgeville. And now then, you can lock them up. So I think the sheriff right now has got
it's mental health is what it is.
Mental health patients where a prisoner should be.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest crisis that law enforcement is against right now is mental health.
Yeah.
Mental health has got to be looked at, and it's got to be looked at hard. You take the officers, they go out there, and maybe it's their first trip. They don't know that kid. They don't know that adult. And if he threatens their life and everything, you know, they don't know that he's mentally ill. And so anyway, I just think that mental health is a big problem.
It's the big problem now. Yeah.
And you know, you can't, you know, when I come along, it was liquor. Good old white liquor, they called it. And we run that just about every day. You'd get on a chase and it'd hit the dirt road. And anyway, every once in a while we looked out and caught one. And then busted the big liquor steals. We used to do that. And then overnight it turned into drugs, which was a whole different problem. And don't ever forget that ain't something that affects just about every family.
I think, you're right.
And I'm not calling our county a bunch of nobody,
Yeah, right.
but in some way,
Well, it's just,
in
it's
some way,
nationwide. It's nationwide.
somewhere down the line,
Yeah.
somebody's affected by it.
Yeah, you're right.
And I just pray for them that are, and I thank God for the ones that didn't have to go through it.
Yeah.
But nobody understands a person under addiction.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
We'll stop. We'll stop for a second. You want